President Biden signing an executive order today that limits the number of asylum seekers admitted to the U.S.
Well, this comes as the number of migrant encounters on the border remains at a very high level. Rebecca Castor takes a look at the implications of today's announcement.
This was the U.S.-Mexico border near San Diego Monday night. More than 200 migrants from countries in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East looking for Border Patrol to start their asylum process, but not before taking selfies in front of the clearly unhindering border wall.
I've come here today to do what the Republicans in Congress refuse to do. Take the necessary steps to secure our border.
After months of calls to take action on the border, President Biden did just that Tuesday, signing off on an order that will temporarily shut down asylum requests if the average number of daily encounters tops 2,500, which is happening right now.
But if an individual chooses not to use our legal pathways, if they choose to come without permission and against the law, they'll be restricted from receiving asylum and staying in the United States.
I talked to President Trump this morning, and he says this is a scam and people will see through it.
Biden officials say the border will shut down at midnight, but critics are not convinced this action will help.
This plan does nothing to stop the asylum abuse, does nothing to stop the parole abuse that this administration has done.
This is too little, this is too late, and the American public knows it's too late.
Biden's executive order comes as polling shows voters think Donald Trump would handle the border better. But Democrats blame the former president for stopping Congress from passing new border policy earlier this year.
The president is left with little choice but to act on his own.
President Biden's executive order will likely face legal challenges. The ACLU already announced it will be filing a lawsuit. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox 32 Chicago.
Joining us now to talk more about today's announcement and its impact on the election is North Central College political science professor and dean Stephen Caliendo. Thank you, Dean, for joining us. Let's get right into this. Joe Biden campaigned on this in large part because he was so opposed to the Trump administration passing what is ostensibly a very similar piece of legislation, although this time it's an executive order. So I guess my question is, how transparent is this with regard to a political move?
Well, it's a political move for sure. I mean, anytime presidents act in any kind of a way that's perceived as being bold, whether you like it or not, in a first term, it's political because they're going to run on it, certainly in an election year. And then when you add on top of that this is an issue that he's been beat up on because the number of folks who have crossed the border, particularly in the last year after Title 42 expired, was much greater than what we've had in the last administration. And so there's no question that it's political. I will say, though, that what President Biden ran on was comprehensive immigration reform. This is not that. This is a stopgap. This is an executive order that is really just about border security. It is not about immigration reform. I think what President Biden hoped was that Congress would work on something because it's going to have much more meaning. It'll be much longer lasting and better funded if it comes through Congress. And as Rebecca mentioned in her piece, that did not happen.
You mentioned there that President Biden has been beat up when it comes to immigration. This is really a huge move that we're seeing him make. Does this bring Biden more in line with Republicans when it comes to border issues?
In some ways, at least in the short term, but this is a difficult line, and we could see him trying to walk that line in the press conference today, that he is aligning himself in some ways with what Republicans have been asking him to do for months. You know, so when they say too little, too late, the too little is a fair criticism. The too late, I mean, it's too late because it's too close to the election, I suppose. But a lot of this is in line with what they want to do. On the other hand, he's being very much criticized by progressives in his own party for having a policy that is so similar. It's not identical, but it's similar in many ways to the executive orders that Donald Trump had during his administration. And so it's very interesting that even though it's close to what President Trump had did, it's not the same. So the conservatives can criticize him there. And because it's so close to what President Trump did, leaves room for the progressives to criticize him from that end.
And it's very interesting, at least from where I'm sitting, that we are, a couple months out from the DNC, and optics are everything. And if this is still in place come August, that the president can talk about, hey, I have done something. I have stopped the influx of migrants. Would that not aid him come August for the DNC?
I mean, it will in a lot of ways, although as we're expecting, we're going to have protesters from the left and the right here. And so while it would aid him in terms of independents and moderate Democrats, it'll probably hurts him for more progressives and folks on the left end of the spectrum who will be certainly showing up in Chicago in that week as well. So I think it's all about calculations about where you need to fall with respect to those key states, and the voters are going to make a difference in those key states.
All right. Always, you are right on point when it comes to understanding these issues. Professor Stephen Caliendo, also Dean, thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a great night, you two.
All right. You do the same. Well, let's